My name is Susan Vivora, and I am a spiritualist. I am a spiritual teacher. I have written several books, and I do offer online courses centered around the spiritual awakening and grief. I began my spiritual awakening well over 10 years ago. I have dedicated most of my adult life for learning and mastering my spiritual energy. Today's topics, we're going to piggyback Dave. I'm really kind of excited. His message really resonated because we're going to talk about how to really integrate his message through science and synchronicities, your energetic vibration, what it means to recognize the messenger and the intuitive. My last sermon here, we talked about the oneness, the law of oneness, and it was very nature bound and the nature of the forest. Today we're going to talk about the groundhog. I live in Burlington, Connecticut, and my property is pretty country. I have a barn on my property, and for several years I've had a groundhog living underneath that barn. For a while I lived peacefully with the groundhog. If any of you have ever had a groundhog on your property, you know they do cause quite a bit of damage. But I enjoyed him. You know, he popped out once in a while, and I shared my garden with him. And I was a little bit fearful that I have animals that if he didn't occupy the space under my barn, that something else would, a skunk, you know, which would be much worse. So I allowed that interaction to take place. Well, this spring, early spring, I looked out my kitchen window and I noticed 5 baby hedgehogs, groundhogs. And so when I tell you I was stressed about this. I know what kind of damage they do. Now, the one thing you need to learn and know about science and synchronicities is that they are very unique. They are special. They will catch your eye. They will raise an eyebrow when you encounter them. Part of my vibration, part of my property, and the things that I hold true and dear to me is family. I have 4 children. I have young adults and I have teenagers that live within my home. I'm a single mother. These children are popular. I have a big, my house is like, I'm just a mother of many, I would say. I took the time and made the effort this summer to build a 10-foot table in my backyard just so I can feed and house and accommodate as many kids as I could. So seeing this groundhog little family in my backyard did not surprise me. And I was aware and awakened to this is some sort of symbolism, sign, or synchronicity that I need to pay attention to. Part of knowing and understanding when you see such unique things in your presence and in your life is to start to have that awareness that even though it may seem very literal, this is a very true story, that there is something bigger and larger at hand that you need to start to reflect on and resonate with. I was stressed, super stressed. I spent days thinking about what I was going to do. I had to do something. I didn't want to physically handle them. I'm not in that space. I didn't want to cage them. I knew I could probably call somebody. But when I tell you I prayed about it, I prayed for several days. And when a messenger walked through my front door of my employment, I knew that this was unique and special. And the messenger came, and the message was very specific. The message was, there is always a back door. And when I heard those words, I stared at this man and I said, oh, okay. And any of you who practice spirituality, you know that there's always something hidden in the background. There's always something going on that you cannot see or that you're not witness to. I'm going to read you something that I wrote about the messenger, a channeled message. You can't be in the vibration of the channel without attracting other channels or other divine messengers. We don't always have access to the impact that we make. We are the middleman. carrying out the will of the unseen. The unseen will use you, they will use me. They will do whatever it takes to assert their influence. Now, being that I am in a vibration of love and light and home, caring, and children loving, there is one thing I always like to tell people that a lot of people don't grasp right away unless you really are paying attention to your attraction. Your energy system is a perfect system. It is not flawed, just like your body is a perfect system. It operates and flows miraculously. Your attraction, you know, this is hard because a lot of people, good people, experience bad things at times, but your system is perfect. It is perfect. There are elements of that system that can be distorted, such as your generational trauma, your DNA, things of that nature, but in all awareness, it is a perfect operating system. So when things do happen that are difficult or challenging, you need to really understand that you are here in the purpose of breaking patterns, generational trauma, and walking in that place where you do have that consciousness and awareness. So the messenger came and I heard the message loud and clear. There is always a back door. As somebody who is in that spiritual path, you have to always understand that that message is much bigger and deeper than what is being presented to you. Those signs, that symbolism, those synchronicities, it goes much deeper than that. And only you know your internal thoughts. You know your vibration, you know your emotions. Only you can really dig a little bit deeper to find the answers that you're looking for. Nobody, no spiritualist can come and tell you what's going on internally in the lessons that you're supposed to be learning. When I went home that night, I went behind my barn, and there it was, the back door. And you could see the little footprints all over the place. So the good news was there was a back door, which I wasn't surprised. And the better news was my yard is fully fenced in. So once I secured the front of the barn, the hedgehogs could no longer come into my yard. They were secluded. The wonderful thing I learned about groundhogs is that they don't go far from their home, which is another bigger message for me. They don't move far from their home. They have to stay within a certain radius of their hole so that if a predator did come along, they could scurry right back in. And I laughed when I heard that because that's me. I don't go far from my home. It's probably many of us. Many of us find that safety in that space where we don't move far from where we could retreat into that safety. That being said, I'm gonna end this with my last intuitive channel, and it's the greatest intuitives. The greatest intuitives amongst us are not the mediums who can read tarot, speak to the dead, or tell you what you already know. The greatest intuitives are understanding symbolism and synchronicities. They are healing through action, taking risks, ending patterns, closing doorways, unlocking knowledge, creating discipline, having courage, trusting themselves, and implementing boundaries. You may not understand this, but you are communicating directly with Spirit. Spirit is so proud of how well you follow their direction. This is knowing at its finest. It is the greatest intuition of all. That's all I did.